Hi, my name is Kishibashi. I'm so sorry I can't make it to your pilgrimage, but I want to play this song. It's called Theme for Jerome, and I actually wrote it when I visited Jerome and Rohwer in the winter of 2017. And I'd like to dedicate it to Rosalie Gould. I'm so sorry I couldn't meet you this time, but I want to thank you so much for your commitment to preserving the memory and history of these camps and your courage. It's quite inspiring. When I visited these camps myself, I realized there was a lot of Japanese culture here. As American as we like to think they were families of immigrants. And the kind of assimilation they had to go through, the language that they lost, the culture that they lost or suppressed, was quite painful for me to understand. And the song is called Theme for Jerome, but it's also known as Forgotten Words. And so, Rosalie, thank you so much for preserving the memory and history of these camps. After today, we speak the new with every word you want from the comfort of my hand. 'Cause after all, we'd fight the war with enemies unseen. 'Cause here we are in Jerome. These words today, how many times I'd smile if you remember me with this song. La, 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 la.
So to get us started in our tribute to Miss Rosalie, I just wanted to come up and say a few words. I am one of the many, likely hundreds, if not thousands, of Japanese Americans who has visited Mayor Gould, Rosalie, at her home in Mickey, sat on her couch, eaten barbecue with her, and heard incredible stories about many other Japanese Americans before me who visited Rosalie to learn about their families and their own lives. And I also was lucky enough to hear a little bit about Rosalie's own life and just the amazing person that she is. And I think probably one of the best compliments I've ever received is when Rosalie told me that I reminded her a little bit of herself, because I had just sort of driven down to Arkansas from where I live in Rhode Island and showed up on her doorstep, assisted by Richard Yada and Heather, who's also here. So really, I can't say how much of an honor and joy it is to gather here with all of you today to celebrate you, Rosalie, and to thank you so much for your years of generous friendship, care, storytelling, and memory keeping. Before we really get started again, I want to just express my gratitude to the folks behind the scenes who made this tribute possible. So the rest of the team at JAMP, Natalie up there running the videos, Megan who's here, Nicole, Kimiko, the whole pilgrimage planning committee, and especially Linda Morris, Paul Takamoto, and Mary Morris, who really worked so hard to pull this together. And before I transition to the next thing, I just want to read a few words. This is very small, but this is a proclamation from the town of McGee that Mayor Jeff Aoyoung passed off to us because he could not be here. And it's just marking Rosalie's 99th birthday, which is coming up. And I want to read a few words from this proclamation just so we all know what we're celebrating here. So it talks about, during a long and productive lifetime, Rosalie has demonstrated in countless ways her dedication to the welfare of others and has earned the respect and affection of people from all walks of life and all ages. And she has lived during the most eventful century of this world's history, and in her quiet way has been a force for good and a stabilizing influence on those around her during these turbulent years. So Rosalie, we will make sure this goes home with you. But that is from the town of McGee. So we're going to move now to a few video clips from a film called Relocation Arkansas that was directed and produced by Vivian Schiffer, Rosalie's daughter, to give us just another glimpse into Rosalie's life and her work and what we honor her for today.
As quickly as those communities were built, they were torn down. And all of a sudden, people were disseminated, and this legacy of history was very incomplete. So it fascinated me to go to McGee, Arkansas, where I understood at the time the former mayor of McGee and a remarkable woman who I had long respected knew more about this than anybody. And I thought to myself, how in the world would Rosalie know about this? I mean, maybe the cotton field, maybe the land, maybe because it was McGee, but what is the connection between Rosalie Gould and the Japanese-American experience at Rohwer?
I think they wanted to share. I think that made them feel better knowing that they could share with somebody because they could tell I was really interested in what they had gone through because they were telling me stories. When I was there, this happened. When I was there, this happened. So, and they could tell that I was very interested in it, and I guess they figured, well, maybe this will make me feel better knowing that somebody cares about what we have.
Gratefully presented to George Sakaguchi for his outstanding devotion to the restoration and preservation of the Rohwer Relocation Center. Your friendship is highly valued. Rosalie S. Gould, Mayor, McGee, Arkansas, 1992.
And she actually had death threats, and I heard people say some things that scared me for her, and I actually told her that, Rosalie, these people are actually threatening your life. She said, I know, they've said it to me, but they don't understand, and never backed up 1 inch. If anything, it just propelled her into supercharged mode.
I was just consumed with now wanting to know what happened. How did these people get here on this train from a major city in California and dumped off here in this no land of, nothing? And what did they think? Who spoke for them? And the person that had most of the answers for me was Mayor Rosalie Gould, who said, well, let me tell you this story. She said there was this art teacher who, when she died, left a portion of her collection to me. And it was the work of people in the camps. And over the years, as people have come to visit this cemetery or traveled through, the word has spread very informally that I had this collection and that my home was a safe haven for people to come. I would tell them what I heard or what I remembered, and I would remember the stories that people told me, and I would share them with others.
I remember seeing her, her smile. She came walking out that door and in her southern drawl just invited us in, had us look around at all of her treasures. Immediately you felt that this was a woman who not only was welcoming you, but understood a little bit of where you came from.
And she opened up her house to us total strangers. And what we saw there was mind-blowing. I've never seen anything like it at all. I've seen other collections and bits and pieces, but she had amassed something that, in my estimation, is priceless.
Rosalie said to me, this is a condition of the gift, that the people the family members of the people who created this art, no matter where they are, they may come from Japan, if they want to see and hold this art, can they do that? And I said, absolutely. We recognize that this is so emotionally significant to these people whose families had this experience that they need to be able to touch it.
People need to know that those camps were there. They need to know that for some of the Japanese it was a setback, but their hard work and determination and courage enabled them to live utterly amazing lives anyway. And they need to know that for some of them it was a heartbreaking, backbreaking, soul-crushing experience. And that even 2 generations later, some people and their families were still embarrassed by what happened and didn't want to deal with it. We need to know that.
Sad thing is, most of those people who have been here are no longer living, and that hurts when you lose, a friend like that finally the people in the United States realized that they had undergone something that should not have happened to them, and that they finally opened their arms to them and said, we're sorry. And that's all some people want, is say, we're sorry, and that gets rid of a lot of pain.
Truth of the matter is, had Rosalie not preserved the collection, had Rosalie not opened her home, none of this would have happened. None of this would. And these Arkansas camps would have drifted into, dreadful oblivion, because there was nobody out there championing them. Nobody. She was the champion. She was the one that said, you got to do more, you got to do more, you got to do more. And for history's sake, I'm grateful that she did.
I think we have seen some familiar faces, and we'll see more. But Lee, thank you so much for that. Such a beautiful tribute to your mother and to this community and so many people. So at this point, I'm going to actually turn the microphone over to a few folks who are here to share some words about Rosalie and their memories and care for Rosalie. And first, I will ask Richard Yada to come.
Good evening. Welcome to Little Rock, everybody. I hope you're having a good time. I know yesterday was a long day, but the barbecue was good too. I'm supposed to say something good about Rosalie Gould today. They didn't tell me what I was supposed to say, but I'm going to start by kind of setting the background. When I was, after the camps were closed in 1945, there's about 10 families that stayed in Arkansas. The rest of them, our esteemed legislature in Arkansas and the governor decided that they told the federal government that when they can open the camp, put the camps in Arkansas, but when the camps closed, all the Japanese would have to leave. They could not buy land in Arkansas. They could not go to school in Arkansas. And as soon as the camps are closed, they are to leave. I guess my dad being a rebel or whatever, 10 families decided they're going to stay anyway, so they did. 2 years after the camps were closed, all the families that stayed, one day decided they're going to go to the cemetery and clean it up. And the only thing I can remember, I was only about 4 or 5 years old, but the weeds were over my head. And back then we didn't have a bush hog or anything. We had the old sling blade that we didn't have a lawnmower or anything. So they cut all the grass down. And the reason I remember this is I got in big trouble. When they got the grass cut, I started jumping over the tombstones And they told me real quickly that it's not what I'm supposed to do. So that's why I remember that. But from that point on, I don't know, that was in 1947 or 48. And after that, my dad kind of kept up with it. And in 1983, prior to that, my dad was telling me about the two tombstones that were built by the internees before the camps were closed, and they were falling apart. And he was having to raise money or take money and repair those so those would be presentable. Then in 1983, that's when he met Rosalie. She was mayor of McGee, and they got together to raise money to build a new monument, build that glass granite monument. Still stands today. And the reason for that was my dad says, one of these days no one's going to care, and those two monuments are going to crumble and fall, and no one's going to repair them. And that we'll build this granite one. At least it'll be so that's where he and Rosalie put everything together, raised the money to have that last monument built. And that's where the good thing started when he met Rosalie. And they, my father and Rosalie took money out of their own pockets until, for several years, take money out of their own pockets to buy a lawnmower, pay someone to mow the yard, buy the gas, and to keep it maintained. And finally, one point, Rosalie got her crew to work with the city to come out and clean it up, but she paid for that out of her own pocket. So she's been doing a lot of good work for many years, and now the National Park Service has responsibility for it, but they don't have the people with the money to keep up with it. So the land was donated to the county of Shea County, and the county judge started Mark McElroy, are now keeping it up. But Rosalie has been steadfast at keeping cemetery presentable, grass cut, trees trimmed, planted cherry trees one time, but didn't have enough. She even ran water out there to keep it watered, and still wasn't enough. But the crepe myrtle are still growing. But Rosalie has been steadfast in keeping it all maintained. So when we go out there and take a look at the grass is cut, limbs are removed. We have a lot of ice storms here and limbs fall, but there are, because of Rosalie, it is cleared up. Some of the people, Mark McElroy, county judge, I help maintain it. Now Mark is actually responsible for it. He keeps he's a state representative, so he gets about 4 flags a year, so he always puts a new one up at the cemetery, and he just put one up last week. He's not here today because he's in Minnesota, I think, because of something about the Mississippi River that he's on some kind of committee. Some of the people, Rosalie is the face of the Rohwer internment camp, and all the memories. But this pilgrimage that you're on, it all started back in 2003 when Heather Benden and Jessica Fulbright and Johanna Lewis, ULR, and Dr. Sybil Hampton, who was president of the Rockefeller Foundation. 2003, 2004, we had a conference of 1,500 people attended. People from Japan, Hawaii, United Kingdom, France, all came in. I saw the guy from Glen Fukushima. He was stationed in Japan at the time. He came to the meeting, and I knew at that point we would have a successful meeting. Senator Inouye was there. This went on for, that was a big impetus to get these pilgrimages started, and Kamiko took over and brought the first pilgrimage here, and I guess we've had it for how many years, 10 or 11 years now. It's all because of what Rosalie has done, and taking care of it, and kept all the memories alive with the gift from Mrs. Vogel. Because of her, we'll have all these memories in a place to store all those memories, and we can get the city library system to have a permanent exhibit of some of the memorabilia that we have and exhibits, that'd be a great thing, but we have to raise a lot of money to get that done. But that's my goal one of these days, to have a permanent exhibit of all the things. Right now it's stored in boxes downstairs, so we'll try to, if David Strickland would help us, I think we can get it done at some point. And thank you, Ms. Rosalie, for all you've done. I try to talk to her about every 2 or 3 weeks to get my inspiration to keep moving. And I appreciate you and I love you. And thank you.
Next, I'd like to invite to the stage Skip Rutherford, who is Dean Emeritus of the University of Arkansas Clinton School of Public Service.
Thank you all very much. I had the pleasure of working with Mayor Gould when I was on the staff of Senator David Pryor. But I had no idea that Mayor Gould was the person who not only answered the question, what camp? She answered it. And during the decades that she was the authority on, particularly Rohwer, but on both camps, she opened her home and her heart and her guest book to thousands for decades. When Heather, Jessica, Dr. Hampton, Dr. Lewis invited me to be part of the Life Interrupted project in 2004, they asked me if I wanted to see the Vogel collection that Rosalie has. I said, sure. So we went in, and much to my surprise, very Arkansas, by the way, pulled it out from under the bed. And I said, Rosalie, she said, well, it's safe here. She was right. But now that collection has been noted as at the Butler Center, and it's wonderful. And Richard, I'll help you on the permanent exhibit and start that. But the thing I want to say about Rosalie is that her courage, her conviction, her compassion was at a time when there wasn't much courage, conviction, and compassion. Oftentimes, she was all alone. She never wavered. She never lost her spirit. And so when I think about what she has done, and she came, I invited her when I was dean of the school, I invited her to come speak at a public program, and she said, why do you want me to speak? And I said, because you need to answer the question, what camp? Rosalie taught Arkansas about Rohwer and Jerome. She taught this state all about it. It is now in our history, documented in Arkansas history because of her. So what do we learn from her? Yes, we learn that we can visit these historic places. Yes, we can learn about the stories. And thankfully, people are preserving them, recording them, protecting the artifacts. But what we can really learn from Rosalie is that we saw the executive order of Roosevelt in the 1940s. We saw the mass deportations of Eisenhower in the 1950s. This happened. What we can learn from Rosalie is never again. That's what we can learn from 99-year-old Rosalie Gould, who said, no, we need to tell this history. Now We don't need to repeat it. We can learn from history, but we don't have to repeat it. And if you want to do something to honor the distinguished former mayor of McGee, support democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those words. And now I'll ask David Strickland, former director of the Butler Center for Arkansas Studies.
Thanks, and thanks for being here. Thanks, Rosalie. Good to see you. On the bell tower of the principal administration building at Baylor University, where I did my undergraduate work, there are 4 quotations. One of them is, "The preservers of history are as heroic as its makers." And none of us in the history community would say we had the same heroism of the members of the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, or Richard did during his own military service, or other people. But to a great extent, and to the extent that quote is accurate, that the preservers of history are heroic. Rosalie Gould exemplifies that precisely for the reasons Skip mentioned, and for some of the things you've heard in the film. When I was one of those people, I knew there were 10 camps. If you'd asked me where they were, I would have drawn the line at about the 100th meridian and said they're all west of there. And there were 2 here. I didn't know it till I got to Arkansas. and I think Skip's right. You could have stopped 100,000 people on the streets of any city in this state and asked about Japanese internment camps. Not a one of them would have known there were two in Arkansas. Now that's not true. There are a lot more now. So Rosalie's is indeed the face of that, but she getting to when I came to do this work, I was teaching history up at Lyon College, and I came down here and worked with the folks at the Central Arkansas Library System, and we were building a great collection and doing a lot of outreach. And Rosalie and Lee came to see me to talk about this collection, and as I've said in the preface to a book we published about the collection, they changed the way we do everything. That gift of this material, the art and the artifacts, the documents, changed the way we looked at everything, the way we conducted ourselves, the way we did outreach, education. It was a stunning act of generosity. Rosalie said, "I own the collection, but it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the people whose experiences it reflects. And it needs to be someplace where people could, I was one of those people who went down to McGee and was just dumbfounded at the treasures she had stuck under beds and in the bathroom and all kinds of places. And getting to be involved in that was such a gift, such an act of total generosity that has been the premier part of my career for umpty years. Colin Thompson, who's our art curator for the Butler Center and the Central Arkansas Library System, was the principal force behind 5 or 6 major exhibitions. There is a small exhibition up at all times. From the minute we receive the collection, there's always some of it is in its own display in the Roberts Library just across the alley. But Colin has done a masterful job of taking care of these materials and of sharing them with people, and we have Glenn Whaley and other people have done a lot of work on that. The thing that strikes me, the reason this is so important, because Rosalie said, this is the largest collection of art from any single camp. There's a bigger collection at the Japanese American National Museum in Los Angeles. I was out there speaking a few weeks ago in honor of Frank Sata and his son. Some of you might have been there. But they have a larger collection, but this is the largest collection of art from one camp. But there's also, this is what Rosalie said, you've got to see these documents, because Jamie Vogel kept all the circulars and other things that the Army passed out, all the notifications. Most people, Richard, your family probably looked at them and just threw it away. Well, she kept all that stuff. Jamie Vogel kept all that stuff. So you have a great sense of the everyday life of the camp, the flow of things, how they did celebrations and the regulations and all the stuff about the Army and everything. So there's this great collection of art, which is powerful, and it depicts that concept Delphine Harrisuna talked about, Gaman, the patient endurance of the unbearable. This demonstrates that. But also these documents talk about what it was like in the camp. And Rosalie said, tell you what, I'm about as excited about those, and I remember as I am about the art. So it's been a great thing. Rosalie did all this work that you're talking about in the face of people who said, once they found out about it, most of them didn't know, once they found out about it, they wanted to keep quiet about it because it's embarrassing. It was wrong, and it was here. And there are a lot of people today who want to do the same thing with history. There was embarrassing stuff about the past. It was wrong. It was here. Let's not talk about it. And so, to add another note to Skip's, if you want to follow the legacy of Rosalie Santine Gould, embrace democracy. That's a good one. But also, embrace history teaching. We need 100 more like Rosalie fast. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have one more tribute that I'm just going to read. I think each of our speakers has given such a full picture of just what Rosalie was up against. And I think being a woman, as you we're up against folks telling you not to hold on to these things, that they didn't matter. It's really inspiring. So thank you. I have one final letter to read from Mark McElroy, who, as Richard mentioned, couldn't be here. So he says, "Dear Rosalie, I'm so sorry that I couldn't be there today, but I'm in Minnesota representing the state. You are my idol. Thank you for everything you've done for the city of McGee, the state of Arkansas, and me personally. More importantly, what you have done to preserve the history of our Japanese American friends. You stood up for right when it was dangerous to do so. I know for a fact that you received death threats and you never wavered. What a difference 50 or 60 years makes. Now the world has realized that Rosalie Gould was a civil rights advocate way before her time. When I grow up, I want to be just like you. I love you dearly. Enjoy your recognition today. You earned it. Your biggest fan, Mark McElroy." We've also collected letters and notes for you in this binder that will make you're going home with a lot of things today, Rosalie. So one final thank you that we'd like to play on a video from a former Rohwer inmate, George Takei.
Greetings. This is George Takei. Regrettably, I can't join you today in person to honor Rosalie Santine Gould on her upcoming 99th birthday. Her work, preserving the history of the Rohwer internment camp, is truly inspiring. I remember visiting Rosalie's home. She showed me artifacts and artworks created by the Rohwer internees spread out on her bed. It was a powerful and moving experience. Rosalie, your efforts have kept alive the stories of those unjustly interned during World War II. You've protected invaluable artifacts and mementos, allowing us to learn from these dark chapters in our history. Your dedication, passion for truth, and respect for those affected are commendable. You've underscored the importance of remembering our past to build a better future. Your work has impacted many lives. You will continue to inspire generations yet to come. Happy 99th birthday, Rosalie. Your legacy is forever.
This is a letter from the office of William Jefferson Clinton, June 7, 2024. We wish we could be there in person with all of you as the Rohwer and Jerome Pilgrimage Committee pays richly deserved tribute to our friend Mayor Rosalie Santine Gould. For decades, Rosalie has worked tirelessly to preserve what remains of the 2 Japanese-American incarceration camps in Arkansas, and to lift up the stories and humanity of the people who lived in them. Her efforts have kept the memories of this shameful period of our nation's history from fading into the past, so that future generations can learn from it and ensure that it is never repeated. For that, we are deeply grateful. As you gather for the annual pilgrimage, we join you in celebrating the many contributions of the Japanese American community and in reaffirming the values of equality and justice. We send our congratulations to Rosalie and our best wishes to all for a memorable and meaningful event. Bill Clinton, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Thank you. And that was read by Mary Ishimoto Morris, who is one of the forces behind planning this whole tribute, got the flowers, everything. So thank you, Mary, so much. I'm going to now invite Paul Takamoto up to the stage, who is a Jerome descendant.
I first met Miss Rosalie 20 years ago, right down the street. I didn't want to be there. A month or 2 earlier, my mom up in Maryland said all my sisters are going to a reunion for the people who are in Arkansas. She didn't use the word camps, but I knew what she was talking about. And I knew that if I didn't take her, she wouldn't be able to go, but she didn't ask me because she knew that was the last thing I'd want to do. I'm 66 now, so 46 then, and had spent my entire life, with very few exceptions, either ignoring or rejecting outright anything to do with what I thought of as the Japanese American thing. And it was a thing, filled in my youth with all the wonderfully creative, self-destructive things you do when you don't like what you are. But guilt being the powerful motivator that it is, after a few days, I remember saying, "Okay, Mom, I'll take you." So it was a conference, and then followed by a trip to the camps. I remember actually looking to see if there are any minor league baseball games nearby that I could watch. But first day of the conference, before the first session, all I knew was that whichever one my mom was going to, I was going to go to a different one, because whatever this thing turned out to be, I needed to go through it by myself. So I remember her saying, "I'm going to this session," and I said, "Oh, I'm going to that one." And I stood out in the hall drinking a cup of coffee, and I'm pretty sure I was the last one in the room. Found a seat in the back on the side, and the room was packed with, I would bet, almost all Nisei, and most of them I'm sure are gone today. But at the front of the room, at one of the tables facing us, was Miss Rosalie. And the thought that popped into my head, which has filled me with shame ever since, sort of equal parts arrogance, strange arrogance, and ignorance. I thought, well, they must have run out of Japanese American people to have that lady sitting up there. And what could she possibly have to talk about? And then she started talking. And one of the things she talked about one of the things she talked about was all that she was doing to help with the preservation of the cemetery at Rohwer, where my grandparents were there after they were in Jerome. And I knew so little about anything that I remember thinking, whoa, I guess people died there. And as she kept talking, it was this pretty sudden dawning that this woman not only knew more about my history than I ever would, but she was honoring the memory of people I'd spent my whole life ignoring. And I've since learned a little bit more, not a lot, but in the entire spectrum of human reactions to this impossible situation, one of the most poignant to me are those of people who are not of Japanese descent, who stood up for them at a time when no one else did. I think of my mom's high school principal, who right after Pearl Harbor called a school assembly to say, the enemy's not here. Your classmates are not the enemy here. This was in LA, his name was Ralph Bernite. And I think of Miss Rosalie, honoring the memory of the people who were buried at Rohwer, and of course all the people who loved them, and all the people they loved. And in doing so, incur the wrath of the people who are there, the people in that town. And when she was finished talking, I remember being filled with this, there's a lot of emotions, shame. There should be a word beyond humility, whatever it is, that's what I felt. But more than anything, this overwhelming need to thank her. And I remember making my way to the front of the room, and I didn't know what I was going to say. I just knew it had to be brief because I was on shaky ground. And I just blurted out something like, I'm from Maryland and you made this whole trip worthwhile. But the feeling I had was, I think, very similar to what everyone feels when they learn about what you did. And that goes all the way back to the very first pilgrims, if you will, back in the early 80s. And so many, as people have said, that at some point they're arriving by busload, thousands of them. And I was thinking, if they were all here today, you know, we'd have to get a bigger place. But in a very real sense, they are here today because I look out and I see people who weren't born when the first pilgrims started coming. And I feel that that is your lasting legacy because while trauma is generational, so is healing. And that's why we're all here to thank you. So, we have a video that Kimiko put together. Kimiko and Mary did so much work on this. And at the end of this, I should just say, my mom is watching this at home. She's 97, and she wanted to say I love you and thank you. On the video, she's not really comfortable saying a lot, so she just said some very few words and then expresses herself musically, as she always has.
Hello, Mrs. Gould. I'm Ann Burrows, President and CEO of the Japanese American National Museum. And on behalf of all of us here at JANM, I'd like to congratulate you on this incredibly well-deserved tribute.
Hello, Rosalie. This is Christine Umeda.
And Mariel Tsukamoto.
Coming to you from Sacramento, California. And we're here to join with the many people honoring you. I recall when you told us so much about how you and Samyata did so much to preserve Rohwer and Jerome. Thank you for that effort.
I'm here to remind everybody that, Rosalie, you're like the Dharma doll. No matter how many obstacles you met, you never gave up. And you kept that promise to not only preserve the items, the precious things from Rohwer, but to place it in an institution that would make it available to so many people in Little Rock, within sight of the Clinton Library. So Rosalie, thank you for preserving the legacy.
Thank you.
Hi, Miss Rosalie. This is Mary Morris. Hi, and I'm Janet Ishimoto, and my husband, Tom Sims, and my sister, Mary, and I had the honor of meeting you about 10 years ago. On behalf of the Osaki and Ishimoto families, we want to say thank you.
Mayor Gould, my name is David Inoue. I'm the current executive director for the Japanese American Citizens League. On behalf of the JCL, I send my highest regards and heartfelt thanks for all that you have done to preserve and advance the history of Japanese Americans. Your allyship is the type that we talk about so often today, but when you first took up our cause was not the norm. So on behalf of the JCL, we thank you.
This is Sam Asaki, hometown Hanford, California. I spent my elementary school days in Jerome and Rohwer. Thanks for remembering, Rosalie. Thanks.
Miss Rosalie, on behalf of my family of Saichiro and Iwainishi, who were interned at Rohwer, I want to thank you for your courage and foresight in preserving theirs and others' legacy. I'm truly honored to have this opportunity to express my gratitude to you. Thank you again. God bless you.
Hello, this is my mother, Kyoko Asaki Wittenberg, and I am Ruth Ann Hughes. On behalf of my mother and the Asaki family, we would like to thank you, Rosalie, for all that you have done in keeping the memory alive for the Japanese Americans who were interned in Jerome.
Hi, Rosalie. I'm Rosalind Tonai, Executive Director of the National Japanese American Historical Society here based in San Francisco. As a descendant of Rohwer concentration camp, as you know, my grandfather, Shintaro Ito, was the rare Issei camp manager of Rohwer. I applaud your legacy of education and preservation for keeping the stories of hardship, sacrifice, and human kindness alive today. Thank you for all your work and your endurance.
Hello, Rosalie. My name is Judy Matsuoka, and I live in Little Rock, Arkansas. My family was incarcerated in Jerome and then in Rohwer, but after the war, they left and went to Chicago, where I was born. I came back to Arkansas 30 years ago, and one of the things I appreciated was the change in attitudes towards Japanese Americans from World War II till now. And I credit you with a lot of that change. You have made such a difference. Thank you.
Hi, Miss Rosalie. I'm going to be at the pilgrimage and really excited to see you receive your award in person, but I wanted to add a little video to let you know how respected and honored we are to have had someone to be a champion for the Japanese Americans, a champion for the survivors and descendants that were incarcerated at Rohwer and Jerome. Thank you. Thank you so much for standing up for the Japanese Americans when no one else would. Thank you so very much.
Hi, Miss Rosalie. My name is Becca Asaki, and I just want to thank you on behalf of the Asaki family and my grandfather who was incarcerated at Jerome. Thank you so much for being such a stalwart ally and working so hard to preserve our history.
My name is Cynthia Sasaki, daughter of Ruby Matsuhiro, who was interned at Rohwer, Arkansas. Ruby had 3 daughters. Here we are at the Butler Center with the curator, my sister Sandra in the middle, sister Kathy on the right, and I'm Cynthia on the left. We would like to thank Rosalie for keeping our mom's artwork and many other students' work so that they can be displayed and enjoyed by so many. We are very grateful and impressed with Rosalie's dedication to keep the legacy of camp artwork alive, a reminder of beauty that can be created in times of difficulty and hardship. Thank you so much, Rosalie.
Hello, my name is Linda Morris of Baltimore, Maryland, and on behalf of the Ishimoto and Asaki families, I offer my heartfelt appreciation and gratitude to you. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Esther Asaki from Bethesda, Maryland. Behind me is a painting by Henry Sugimoto, who was in Jerome with my father, Goro Asaki. Henry Sugimoto was also my father's Japanese language teacher in Hanford, California. Thank you, Rosalie, for all you have done for preserving the memory of the camps, for the people incarcerated there, their families, and future generations.
Hi, Ms. Rosalie Gould. I just want to say thank you as the son of somebody who was born at the Rohwer incarceration camp. Thank you for preserving the Rohwer site and also for getting it historically designated. It means a lot to me as a descendant, especially from the perspective of preserving it for future generations.
Hello, Ms. Rosalie. My name is James Okamura. Over 80 years ago, the WRA incarcerated my paternal family and their friends in Jerome and Rohwer. Your foresight and courage helped preserve their experiences in Arkansas's history. Mille grazie, Signora Rosalie, per il tuo coraggio. Taihen o sewa ni narimashita. Thank you, Ms. Rosalie.
Hi, Rosalie. I'm so happy that the pilgrimage is honoring you. I want to thank you for being such a special friend.
words, and thank you to all of you who sent in tributes to Rosalie. Kimiko burned a DVD copy of this thank you, so you will also have that with you as well. So we're nearing the end of our time, and I'd like to ask Linda Morris to come to the stage to present our gift to Rosalie and her mother, Linda, or Mary, I'm sorry, Linda and Mary Morris.
My dream is to merge into one with my mother. Thank you so much, and that was so beautiful. I mean, Alice is such a beautiful player. So Rosalie, thank you so much for being here. We are here to offer 2 gifts to you today. Rosalie, our first gift is a collection of messages of love and appreciation for all you have done for us. These are all letters from survivors and descendants of Jerome and Rohwer, some who you already know, and also from many who you haven't met yet. There are also letters of tribute from the Japanese American Citizens League, the Japanese American National Museum, and Densho. Our second gift is an engraved crystal block we hope you also enjoy. On the right, you will recognize the watercolor of a guard tower at Rohwer, painted by Y. Yoshioka, an incarceree and a student of Mabel Jamison Vogel, part of the Rosalie Santine Gould Mabel Jamison Vogel collection preserved at the Butler Center. The inscription reads, Rosalie Santine Gould, Mayor of McGee, Arkansas, 1983 to 1995, from Friendship by Ralph Waldo Emerson. O friend, my bosom said, through thee alone the sky is arched, through thee the rose is red. All things through thee take nobler form and look beyond the earth. The mill round of our fate appears, a sun path in thy worth. Me too, thy nobleness has taught to master my despair. The fountains of my hidden life are through thy friendship fair. Dear Rosalie, thank you for being our friend. With eternal love and gratitude, the survivors and descendants of Jerome and Rohwer, Little Rock, Arkansas, June 7th, 2024.
Okay, she doesn't want to say anything. I have no prepared remarks, which is great. This is wonderful. And this is really, really amazing. When Mary contacted me about this some time ago, I thought it was a wonderful idea, and I didn't really appreciate that it was going to be so big and so well put together. And Mary and Paul, and I guess Linda probably too, Kimiko, Aaron, have all been working on this, and I know there are countless others who have been working on this, about which I'm not aware, but I thank them all. All those years ago, I don't think Mother or I'm Lee Schiffer, by the way, I'm her daughter. I don't think that, well, I know for a fact, that neither of us expected that the Japanese American experience in Arkansas would define her life and would define my art. Because in addition to just being a regular person, I'm also an author and a filmmaker, and the subject of both of those creative works is the Japanese American experience in Arkansas. It's been an honor and a pleasure for us to have been welcomed by the community. You know, I know that the community that's been harmed and its collective identity could decide that everybody outside of them is the enemy. And I think the Japanese, my experience with the Japanese American community, that it has a distinction of understanding that each American is an American. So I appreciate that. We can't thank you enough for your friendship, for letting us into your community, and most of all for this. And I don't want to belabor the point, but apparently Skip and David didn't go all the way in the back because some of the art was under the bed, but when I would visit before this art went to the Butler Center, I would have to move it so I could go to bed. So I want to thank again Paul, Mary, Linda, Aaron, Kimiko. Hope I haven't forgotten somebody by name. And I want to thank my Rosalie's grandboys, Jacob and Wyatt Schiffer, and Wyatt's wife Monica for making the trip from Houston. Thank you all so much.